Hello everyone, this is Pras from the FPL Wire and welcome back to my team selection video. Finally the international break is over and I think everyone's said it. There's now games coming thick and fast, so the proper season is here. Now everyone will suddenly see rank improvements. Everyone who's freaking about bad ranks will suddenly say in January, it's not such a bad season. Because our hard work or engagement or basically fixating about this game every day starts to pay dividends when actually it matters. So really excited about the time that's coming up, and let me get right into it. So I'll start as usual with my game week. Now this is a long time ago, so again not going to spend too much time, but very happy how the international break ended for me. Even though I still had DCL. So you guys remember in the previous team selection video, I was thinking maybe DCL to should go, but then I wasn't sure if João Pedro will be fit. I was thinking about other options like Ivan Nilsson. I don't even remember who else I was thinking about. Maybe a Welbeck. I didn't do any of that. Kept him. He got a blank, but that was fine. Now there's more options that have opened up. And as you will see, maybe he doesn't leave my team even this week. But apart from that, Fabianski, playing him against DCL worked out really well. So he got a 9-pointer. Third clean sheet this season from a keeper. I've got one from Henderson, one from Ederson, and one now from Fabianski. So it feels good. And then obviously nothing from Rico Lewis. 8 Nouri was very close to getting like a 12-pointer because that assist that right in the end that Bellegarde couldn't reach, I think that was very close. And in fact, if he got that assist, a lot of people even on Wildcard would just say, I need to have 8 Nouri. So happy to have him going forward. And then the midfield, love my midfield. Bumo got the assist. I can't believe people are actually debating getting rid of this guy. Like, he's got Everton and Leicester coming up. Very happy to have him. Salah continues to go very well. The decision to sell Haaland to get him has turned out to be very lucky. He's having a great season. So happy that because of selling Haaland, I had no choice. Salah was the captain last 2 weeks and he's delivered, a couple of goals and an assist and a lot of bonus points. Saka and Palmer with blanks, but these are the two hot properties that people will want in the future. Saka we'll obviously talk about given what's going on, but Palmer for sure. And then Cunha, again, very happy. He was again part of my 2 moves from Haaland, so very happy to have him. And then Solanke, this guy is just like, the weeks where people expect from him, he doesn't do well. The weeks where people don't expect, he does well. Maybe we should remember that. And then I already talked about DCL. And for a change, my bench did nothing. Like usually my first bench does all the points. And this time, Edison, Rogers, Pinnock, Greaves didn't do much. So overall, in the top 200k, which at this time of the season is amazing. Like if you're in the top million or around 1.5 million, I think it's fine. Like you're in a proper trajectory and anything is possible. To be at this rank when I know a lot of the engaged managers aren't here, it feels good because this should mean that over the Christmas period, unless I really played badly or I get very unlucky, I should be in the top 100k by the end of the Christmas period, which is always the goal. And so looking okay so far, and obviously due to a lot of luck. So let's get into the actual team selection and the things that are on my mind, which is what I try to do on these videos, right? So I've now used this slide a couple of times before, but this is now relevant because we are now looking into Gameweek 12. So let me just quickly talk about some of the teams, and I'll also talk about the Lego Mane fixture congestion because this is now when it becomes important. So let's do team by team. So let's look at Man City first. Man City, next couple of weeks are okay fixtures. Now Spurs at home, they've got probably both centre backs missing. So Ben Davies and Dragusin, they're good for 3 goals here. Like it should be a 3-goal win. And then Liverpool away, not so great. But after that, Man City are absolutely fine. It really depends on what you see of their form. Will they absolutely reset after the 4 losses on the bounce? Will they become a little bit more cagey? Expect Haaland to be amongst the goals. So people who have him, don't panic. People who don't have him, don't think that he's never going to score again. So, or even if he's never going to get a double or a brace or a hat-trick again. He probably will in some of these games. So expect that. But despite that, it's also okay not to have him. So in terms of Man City's schedule, I think the thing that I wanted to talk about is basically you have a short turnaround. So people keep talking about, Salah will have minutes managed because he plays on Sunday and he plays on Wednesday. It's the same for Man City, right? They play on Saturday and then they play on Tuesday. The difference is both are home games now. Big difference between what we had seen in the past where they were playing 4 away in a row. I kept saying 4 away games is not easy. 2 home games in a row looks much easier. And then they have a nice break from Tuesday till Sunday until they play Liverpool. But then you'd expect the first team to play Liverpool, you'd expect the first team to play Forest, and then almost the first team, but you might see a little bit of rotation in this period. So I'm not happy as a Rico Lewis owner because it's the dreaded Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, which we have always talked about. If you've listened to The Wire, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday is the worst when you have a midweek fixture because managers hate it. It's not enough turnaround time. It's basically 2 days gap between each game. But after that, it's quite okay, actually, their schedule. They have Juventus, but there's a nice gap between Saturday and Wednesday, and then another Wednesday to Sunday. So very nice. And then they're not in the Carabao Cup. So therefore, after Game Week 15, very nice 1 week break, which is very rare. And then another almost 1 week break, so Saturday to Thursday. The issue is basically in Game Week 19 when they will play Leicester. So Everton and Leicester come thick and fast, like within 3 days, because that's the Boxing Day and the 29th is basically the New Year's Day midweek. And so that might be an issue, but it's so far out that I'm not going to talk about it yet. So that's Man City. I think Arsenal, Suj on Planet FPL made an excellent point, and somebody pointed it out on our main pod as a comment. So I did check that out. Arsenal play Nottingham Forest at home, West Ham away, which is a London team, Man United at home, which is at home, Fulham away, which is a London team, Everton at home, Crystal Palace away, which is a London team, Ipswich at home, Brentford away, which is a London team, and Brighton, which is not London, but not very far. So basically this whole period, until 4th of January, they're not doing much travel. So if you look at their schedule now, they will have obviously a trip this midweek, which is an away European tie. But after that, things are looking very good. Like even look at their cup ties, like their European. Like after this midweek travel, they're home. So any concerns of thinking about minutes for players, I think the minutes, Arsenal already a good team for good minutes. Minutes are only going to get better. So concerns around Odegaard, I think Odegaard should be good. Concerns around other players like Havertz, Saka, if they're fit, they should play. Gabriel, Saliba, Raya. Now there are other peripheral players where it's not so similar. Like Timber could still play. We talked about this in the pod. He'll play most games, but Partey could play one of the games. Calafiori, when he comes back, will he play all the games? Tomiyasu could come back today. They were showing pictures of Tierney. I don't think he starts much, but still, they will have options. So there's enough good options at Arsenal where I feel good that they're second in the ticker, and they're also a team that will not travel too much during the very busy period. So apart from them, I think the ones to talk about are Chelsea. So Chelsea are top of the ticker. So there's a lot of interest in Colwill, in Jackson, and Palmer. So cut long story short, Palmer doesn't need to go anywhere. Palmer is the must buy, I think, after Salah this week if you can get to him. And I mean, you can see why. I mean, he's playing Leicester. He's been spotted in training, so there's a yellow flag on him, but I think that's like not a relevant flag. And then if you think about Palmer specifically, he plays, then he doesn't. He has a midweek rest. And then basically he plays again at home, and then he plays Southampton away, which is the nice fixture, right? And you'd expect him to play because he's got a rest over the IB. Even in the first period of the season until now, he's been missing midweek games. He's not been even traveling for these European the Conference League games. So you'd expect he's fine. I think the issue where this comes in is basically if you're looking for a Jackson, where I'm just not confident with it. Even if he doesn't play the midweek game with Villa, Southampton, and Spurs. Now, Villa and Spurs sandwiching Southampton away, for me, just smells like there is going to be rotation. Now, I could be wrong. He could play all three, and in that case, we revisit. But as things stand, the way Maresca has done, he has rotated. Nkunku is a good player. João Felix scores braces in random games. Nkunku is probably their top scorer, I think I read. So he has options. So why would he not use them in Southampton? So that's what worries me. And then when I add a fourth, the fact that he has a fifth yellow card hanging over him, that's not ideal either. Like, let's imagine he, misses a game, comes on, gets a yellow, then he's suspended for the other one. It's just a messy situation. I don't, like, when you're comparing him to elite options like Watkins, Isak, even Havertz, I think he's fine. He should do well, but why would you do that? Like, this is the period where every decision that you will see in my team, and I would recommend you to do the same, is to make it robust. Make your team robust in terms of you should not be surprised looking into the lineups of new players. Of course, if you have Rico Lewis now and things like that, okay. But get players who over the Christmas period give you that conviction that I don't need to worry about this player unless he's injured, unless there's something fundamental that changes. So try to get more of those players. So for me, Jackson doesn't fit that bill. This is why I don't even love Lewis Hall. Like, he's fine, but if I look at Newcastle, like, Newcastle are not in Europe. So, they are rested, so they're a good team, which is why Isak is very popular. But when I look at their fixtures, like, apart from West Ham, again, we talked about this in the main pod, defensively, we're not there yet. They've got Spurs, they've got Villa. And then you have to also consider the fact that over December with midweek games, does he play every single game? I don't know. Is it worth it? Like, when you have other options who are also solid, like a Van Heck, you have a Colwill, these guys will just play. A Konza, they may sound boring, not as exciting as Lewis Hall, but like, my recommendation would be try to be a bit boring over the Christmas period. So what else did I want to talk about? I wanted to talk about Brighton. So Brighton's fixtures are really, really good, as are Wolves'. Wolves basically after game week 17 become a little bit dispensable. So people who are looking at Acuna, I think he dovetails really well with the Fulham. So look at Wolves going right up to game week 17. And then after that, look at Raul Jimenez, Southampton home, Chelsea away, Bournemouth home, Ipswich home. So you could look to basically get some money out if you have a Cunha, or that's what I will be looking to do, to a Raul Jimenez or somebody else who may come about at that point. And that gives me that extra 1.5 million to, let's say, upgrade an Mbumo to a Bruno Fernandes, to get a Konate or even a Trent. Let's see where we are at that point. So that's just at the back of my mind in terms of Wolves. So like, 8 Nuri to Cunha to Raul Jimenez and Konate or something like that could be something that I can think about. And then let's talk about Liverpool. Let's talk about Liverpool's fixtures coming up or travel. So they have got Southampton away, which is an away game, but then they're home to Madrid and home to Man City. So I think that helps a little bit, even though it's that shorter turnaround, so they will have to return back. So I can see in Southampton, because it's a game of that nature, that it's a 2-0, 3-0 game. We've seen Salah's been subbed off on the 75th minute or 72nd minute and once on the 80th minute. Apart from that, he plays. He's been rested. So I'm not trying to scare anybody. He's easily the best captain this week in my view. And so it's a case of if they're winning 3-0, then Salah's probably got a couple of returns. So you don't care if he's subbed off on the 75th minute. If they're not winning, or if it's only a 1-0, then he probably doesn't come off and he gets that jammy 85th minute return, which he's given time and again. So I'm not that worried. But yes, there is a minute's risk in the last 10 minutes. There's a tail risk because Madrid is an important game. But I like the fact that both Madrid and Man City are at home. And then Newcastle away, again, not an easy fixture. But the good thing about it is they have a similar, just like Man City, they have a Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday turnaround. But in their case, these are all important games. Man City home, no one's getting rested. Like if you're talking about Salah or Konate, those are the two popular assets at the moment. They're not getting rested for either of these three. Merseyside derby, Newcastle away, Man City at home, very important games. Where you could see a rest is maybe in the European fixture later or something like that. And obviously they're still in the Carabao Cup, so they could rest there. They're actually playing Southampton again. So that could happen, but I don't see a rest or a minute's risk with either a Konate or a Salah. So if you were to go there, my issue with Konate is like, apart from this week, which is Southampton, next two, I don't love them. So I'd rather just wait and get him a little bit later. Like maybe Everton away, he's got a good clean sheet, maybe Fulham at home, but then they play Spurs again. So he could also wait. This game week 17, 18 that I've talked about, you could also wait and get him then. Like for me, is not as urgent as getting an Arsenal defender. And I'll tell you, because I've got this chart from 11ify, and you look at predicted clean sheets in the future. There's a reason why I've been drooling over an Arsenal defender or a couple of Arsenal defenders. They're going to be highest clean sheet odds week after week now for the foreseeable future. If you believe in that sort of thing, if you believe in expected data, expected clean sheets, they're number one this week. They will be number one next week. They will be number one the week after. Look at these percentages for clean sheets on the left-hand side of the table. They will be number one the week after that and the week after that. So if that's your kind of thing, you should be thinking about Arsenal defense, which is not the same thing for Liverpool, where like this week they're good, but that's 40%. It's not even close to an Arsenal. And then next 2 weeks, not great at all. And then after that, they're about 36, 39% in terms of clean sheet odds. Again, 17, not so great. So 1.81 in the next 5 next 6 doesn't mean you need to be taking hits for Konate or you have to have Konate. For me, if you don't have an Arsenal defender, you should be getting an Arsenal defender. Stop getting FOMO of other players. Arsenal defender, it's boring, but it's good. So that's what I wanted to talk about fixtures. Actually, lastly, sorry, I keep saying lastly, but Villa. Let's talk about Villa. Their 3 of the next 4 are absolutely amazing. And the one that I love the most is Gameweek 15, which is Southampton at home, which I mentioned in the main pod is probably the best captain that week. The only problem with Villa is you get scared because you look at their fixtures and you look at what's going on and you say, look, this week Palace is good, they're fine, but then they play Juventus, which is also at home, but then they play Chelsea. They have the same issue with the Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday. So when they play Chelsea away, they play Brentford at home. Southampton at home, basically either Brentford at home or Southampton at home, screams of a minutes problem. Now, Watkins is an ex-Brentford player. Which one do you think he says, okay, I'm going to miss? Probably none. I'm not against scaremongering. I'm just giving you facts. That is also a week where it's going to be tight, like who plays. After that, Villa are fine. But then after that, the fixtures are also gone. So if you wanted to take a punt, that's okay. But this is where I feel people who go Watkins, the points are yours. Like not a lot of people will go there, especially when Isak is right there. And this point is again made by this chart. If you look at the projected goals, you look at Newcastle here. Newcastle are projected to have 11.49 goals in the next few. Villa are 10.2. So despite these amazing 3-4 fixtures that I've talked about, Newcastle are actually just equally good. So why would you again not just go for a Newcastle who are not so... they're not in Europe. Like, look at Newcastle. They play West Ham. Then they have a nice 1-week break. Then they play Crystal Palace. Then they have a 3-day break. Then they play Liverpool at home. Then there's a little bit of a squeeze, which is Brentford away. So from Liverpool home to Brentford away, there's a small squeeze. And then nice 1-week break. Nice 4-day break. And then they have the Carabao Cup, which is at home. And then they play Ipswich. So it just doesn't feel like you will have as much of a... Of course, Isak could get injured, right? But I'm not going to be here and speculate about people's injuries. It is what that is. But if he's fit, he's firing. There's no reason not to get him or get Watkins over him. So that's really it about long-term, what I've been thinking about. Do keep Gameweek 14 in mind. Do keep Gameweek 18 in mind in terms of midweek games. They're important games and always look at what is around them. Now let's come to this week. So, as I mentioned, clean sheet odds, Arsenal right up the top. 50% clean sheet odds, home to Nottingham Forest. So all the things people are talking about, Nottingham Forest had the same points as Leicester or whatever. Arsenal is still expected to do very, very well. Liverpool at second at 42%. Anything under 40 is not great. So this is where it comes down to, like, people are saying, oh, Lewis Hall, this is the week to get Lewis Hall or a Colwill. They're at 36%. It's not too different from Rico Lewis home to Spurs. He's at 28%. Everton, people have Mykolenko, 27%. Like between a Colwill and a Mykolenko, the difference is 6% in clean sheet odds. Like, I don't see the need, unless you're on Wildcard, to be making important defensive transfers where next week we could find out, oh, Mazraoui is amazing. He's playing left wing back and he was incredible, scored a goal. He's the one to get. Like, why would we not wait? Next week, Brighton's fixtures turn. Like this week, it's 18% clean sheet odds. From next week, you saw the fixture table. Let's look at 11FI's odds. So Brighton already. So this week is 18%. But going forward, they're pretty much at a very healthy 38%. There's 28, 32. I mean, that's as good as Brighton's clean sheet odds will get. That's like a decent option. Like, why would I commit to a haul this week? If you have to, of course, people have to sell Trent, then go for it. Like, there are options there. And my favorite probably would be Colwill here because, again, look at the clean sheet odds. They look very nice. Or a Konate if your funds don't get stuck there. But Brighton are a team that look good from next week. So I just feel next week there'll be more options. Villa become a decent option as well. Like, no one's talking about Konza. Konza's good, man. He's got third best clean sheet odds this week. People are talking about Dean. Konza, man. Like, save 0.3, save yourself the headache of looking at clean sheets, and go from there. So that's on the clean sheet odds. In terms of projected goals, so Liverpool at 2.65, which as expected against Southampton. Now, this accounts for everything, right? I mean, people will say, oh, have they accounted for the fact that Ramsdale is not playing or Bednarek is not playing? These are updated as of 20th of November. So they know. Same for Man City. Like, there is a little bit of uncertainty, but it is baked in that, Spurs may not have their centre-backs or Kulusevski. Maybe there's a doubt. These will update through the day. So people who have Haaland and Salah, watch out for this space. Like these figures will get updated, but as things stand, for me, Salah is the top cap. Like Chelsea is there at 2.3 as well. All of them are talismanic. Like you can't tell me that Haaland has a bigger goal share than Liverpool. In fact, that's a good point to move in terms of captaincy. Let's go there. So in terms of goal share, it shows you Haaland has a 37% goal share, Palmer has a 28, Isak has a 35, and Salah has a 30%. I'm looking at the last column, which basically is that share multiplied by the number of expected goals gives you this projected goals. So that's why Haaland is at 0.94. Haaland should score, man. If you have him, he should score. But then this says so should Salah, so should Isak, and very likely so should Palmer. Jackson's not too far either. But this tells me a few things. Number one, if Salah is expected to score almost the same number of goals and they're the second highest clean sheet odds, he's starting 1 point ahead of, or 1.5 points ahead of Haaland, because you're expecting a clean sheet. Actually, 1.5 is not fair because clean sheet odds are less than 50%. Let's say he's starting like 0.6, 0.7 points ahead of Haaland because there's a chance of a clean sheet, and if he scores, he gets more points. So therefore, if you're expecting both Haaland and Salah to score, you should be captaining Salah. And that's my reasoning for saying Salah is slightly the better captain this week. But you are playing with fire whenever you say Haaland's not the best captain in any week, and especially this week. But look, Spurs are a team that can give them a game even without centre-backs, or they can absolutely implode. Like, think about that Villa game. Think about the Brighton game. That, for me, is what Spurs are. You could have a first-half Spurs against Brighton where they were absolutely terrible. No, sorry, they were absolutely incredible, and then they ended up losing. Or you could have... Was that the game? Am I misremembering? Or was it the Villa game? But anyway, so you could have a Spurs game where they could be absolutely incredible or they could be absolutely terrible, and that City game could be anything from a 4-0 hammering to maybe a 2-2, but I'm expecting goals in that game. But Salah one thing I'm for sure, Liverpool are scoring 2 or 3 goals. Markets expect them to score 2.65 goals. I think that's very fair. So it's up to you. If you think Liverpool score 3 goals, how many will Salah be involved in? I think Salah is an easy cap, especially if you don't have Haaland. Palmer is tempting for some people, but we talked about this in the podcast where they're playing on the early kickoff on Saturday, and this has not got to do with them eating pasta at 8 a.m. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying people coming back from international injury or international break, you just don't know, right, how much they're prepared and, whether they're good to go. Sometimes there's uncertainty with results. Salah plays on Sunday. They get another day. They get all the people who've traveled back, another day to prepare. So just feels better. So for me, the order would be Salah, Haaland, Palmer. And then I'm very encouraged to see Isak, 0.8, much higher than Watkins, quite a bit higher than Jackson. He's the pick, like if you wanted to go for a mid-price striker this week. So that's it for the week. Before I get to my team, I wanted to shout out the Sleeper Pick'em League. So we talked about it on the podcast. Next week, after the game week finishes, there will be the Champions League, which is back, so you can play the Champions League Pick'em game, and you can download the app from the QR code that you see on the left, and on the right you can join the Pick'em League directly, which will take you to the league that basically gives points or prizes worth $1,000 for the top 3, and so it's completely free. You can get involved. And also, if you are enjoying what you're listening to, I would appreciate a like. A lot of people have shown love to the FPL Wire. We've just moved to the Blue Sky account and there was so much love. So thank you so much. And if you can add that love with a little bit of a subscribe as well, that would be very, very appreciated. Here's my team for Game Week 12. I have not made the Edison to Raya move, but I didn't want to look at Edison's face again. So I've put Raya here anyway, because no matter what, even if it's for a hit, Edison to Raya will happen. I've talked about the clean sheet odds. I've talked about the advantage that people will have that are on Arsenal early. So I'm going to back that. And so many people who are on X or on Blue Sky know that I was absolutely delighted when Raya dropped. And so I'll be picking him up tomorrow or Saturday morning, but he will be in. So, and by the way, this is the first time ever in FPL that I've owned Raya. Like even the season past when he used to play for Brentford, on Wildcard, a lot of people went for him. I went for Nick Pope, I remember. So I've never actually owned Raya. So it'll be nice because I just think he's a good keeper in a good defense. So defense, like I said, I'm not too worried. Gabriel, I'm happy. Highest clean sheet odds. Pinnock and Rico Lewis are okay. I'm not going to make a transfer. And I'll tell you why. Because next week, Pinnock is... who does Pinnock play next week? I think he's home to Leicester. Yes, he is home to Leicester. So I'm happy to play Pinnock next week. And also 8 Nouri has a good fixture next week. Who does he play? Let's have a look. Wolves play home to Bournemouth. So not amazing, but it's a home game. This is why I'm not too desperate. Like, even if I do my moves, I'll have like 1 million in the bank. I could do Pinnock to Konate. But I don't want to. Because I'm happy playing Pinnock this week and next week. Not happy, but I'm okay because next week Konate plays Man City. So I'm okay to keep that million for a rainy day and then see how things work out later. Let me keep going. So defense, I'm okay with. I've not yet decided between 8 Nouri and Rico Lewis. I'll see what the news is. Like Zoff was telling me Kovacic could be out, although everybody looks to be back in training. So I don't like the chances for Rico Lewis. And if that turns out to be the case, I'll chuck it and just play 8 Nouri. Again, not expecting much, but these are just little bit of upside defenders. So one of them will play, but Pinnock definitely plays. The question is between 8 Nouri and Rico Lewis. Midfield, Rogers is now in. And Mbumo, Palmer, Salah. So these 4 I'm very happy with. I think the Mbumo has now been, by Thomas Frank, said that he's fine. Pinnock, he said that he's fine. Palmer was seen in training, so I'm expecting Maresca to say that Palmer is fine. Saka is the one that's a little bit of a question mark. Not a little bit, in fact, he's not been spotted in training. So he's giving me a little bit of a headache. And I will talk about in the next slide my scenarios of Saka being okay, no news, Saka being out near term and Saka being out medium term, and that will affect my transfers. And so Cunha is in there, he'll start. I'll tell you what, when I compare Cunha to Calvert-Lewin this week, I know people will laugh, so I'm giving a trigger warning now. There is no Cunha here because the way to Fulham is not an easy fixture. You see where DCL is? Above Bruno Fernandes, above Foden, above Gakpo, above Luis Diaz, above Odegaard, above Mbumo, above De Bruyne, Gordon. So for all the bad things, 0.4 expected goals because he's home to Brentford, who have conceded in every single game, is not too bad. So a part of me thinks, if Saka's out, is it the end of the world if Calvert-Lewin comes in? Most of you will shout and say, yes, it is the end of the world, but I won't. So I'm actually okay with having Calvert-Lewin on the bench. I was even debating playing him over Cunha. Now, again, this is a trigger warning for people who think I'm an idiot. But it's not too bad of a shout. Like, the markets and the expected points say that DCL is a better play this week than Cunha. I won't do it. Don't worry. I will be playing Cunha over. But I don't mind if Calvert-Lewin comes on. So that's where we are in terms of team selection. So here are my transfer scenarios. So if Saka is okay or there's no news, and this is what I'm expecting because this is my likely scenario because Arteta is not going to tell us anything, then I'm just going to leave it. Edison, Solanke to Raya and Isak. Very happy to have Raya and Isak, long-term, robust picks, which add to my other robust picks of Gabriel, Bumo, Palmer, Salah, Cunha. Like, these guys just play. They're on penalties. Well, Cunha should be if Sarabia isn't playing, but these guys just play. And happy with that. And I would add Saka to it as well once he's okay. So going forward, my team will look more towards players who take set pieces, penalties, and play 90 minutes and not rotation risk. So that fits the bill. Unlikely scenario, if basically Arteta comes and says he's out for West Ham, but not too bad, but he's out for West Ham. I don't think he will do that, but could be that there are some rumors and he's not basically playing Nottingham Forest. Now, I actually think they will do what they can to play him because this backfired when they did it against Bournemouth and he missed out, they lost. And so I think given where they are in the league, given what Man City have done and given away points, they should be smelling blood and they should be playing Saka if they can. Who else plays on the right? Trossard has not been fit. Sterling, will they play Sterling? So I think if they can make it, Saka will make it. But anyway, if he is confirmed out, but only for short term, I may just leave it. Like I told you, like DCL could come on for a game. It's not the end of the world. But I could also get tempted to just say DCL to João Pedro because that's my move next week. No matter what happens next week, just like I did Edison to Raya as a planned move, I will do DCL to João Pedro next week as a planned move. I want to see João Pedro one more week. I don't need him away to Bournemouth. Even though he's actually on expected goals higher than DCL, but I'm okay. I don't need to take a hit for this. And so that's where we are. And the only other scenario is where Saka is confirmed out and it's medium term. Like tomorrow, Arteta comes and says, for a couple of weeks or for a few weeks, Saka is out. I hope that's not the case. But I will suck it up. And then in that case, my move will be Raya and Bruno and Isak will come in for Edison, Saka and DCL. So in this case, I've not sold Solanke, I've sold DCL. So Solanke will go first bench and I will play Bruno and Isak and Rodgers. And the idea would be next week I'd have Solanke home to Fulham and then I could bench Rodgers. So in this case, if I went down this route, I would not have to get João Pedro next week. I could just keep Solanke for a little bit longer. And then Solanke would come down eventually to João Pedro, and then Mbumo would become Saka. That would be the route that I would change if Saka was out for a couple of weeks. But that's where I am. It was 30 minutes, much longer than I thought. But hopefully this all makes sense. We're getting into the busy period, the big boy period. So good luck, make sensible moves, don't panic, and we will all rise in rank together. Thanks very much. See you next week.